Ford's legendary racing heritage spans decades and many historic cars and drivers across seemingly every motorsport possible, but no name has been as legendary and has achieved as much notoriety as the GT40, a car that was built under the sole idea of beating Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and it would succeed in doing that multiple times in the 60s. The GT40 program was so successful that Ford's racing departments knew that it had to capitalize on its success with other racing ventures, which included building specialized GT40 road cars, as well as partnering with Shelby to build legendary Mustangs for road racing and street driving. But today, we aren't talking about any of them actually. Today, we will be discussing a car that very few people know the existence of. The European department of the Blue Oval set off into the world of rally racing with the cousin of the GT40, a mid-engined, sloped-bodied two-seater that was meant to set the world on fire. This is the story of the Ford GT70. Now, if you haven't ever heard of the GT70, don't feel too bad, as the car never truly ventured beyond its prototype phase of design, and because of that, only 6 examples were ever created. So just why exactly did Ford decide to build a car with the same GT name for the world of rally racing? Well, the answer is simple. In the same vein of Ford determining that a Le Mans winning race car would help boost brand notoriety, rally racing as a motorsport was becoming increasingly popular in Europe in the late 60s and early 70s, which meant this was an area where Ford could make up some ground and gain fans. And one of the lead designers of the GT70 to name just a few of them, and he would pen countless iconic designs of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And some of these cars that he would design included the E34 BMW 5 Series and the E32 BMW 7 Series, as well as the iconic Aston Martin DB4 GT Zagato. Spada will be brought in to become the chief designer at Ford's Italian Ghia design house after Ford bought majority ownership of Ghia from Alejandro De Tomaso. Soon, the Ghia design studio would be an integral part of Ford Europe's design operations, helping with cars like the Ford Fiesta Mark I and the soon-to-be GT70. As the 1960s rolled into the 1970s, Ford of Europe was struggling to build the production Ford Escort into a competitive rally car. While its small size and durability showed signs of being competitive on off-road stages, its lack of power and speed at this time was a real issue on the asphalt and road stages that were becoming more and more common in European rally events. And after a disappointing finish at the 1970 Rally of Monte Carlo, Stuart Turner, the head of Ford UK, began discussing an idea for a new competition car with English rally driver Roger Clark. Turner eloquently described the conception of the GT70 itself as a car that virtually came to life on the back of a postcard. Meant to handle the off-road stages just as good as the Escort while also bringing the speed and power to outperform the likes of the Porsche 911 and the Renault Alpine A110, which had currently been dominating the rally stages. This was the GT70's chance to shine, so Turner and Ford enlisted the help of another designer with experience in building race cars that could beat their more established European rivals. This man was Len Bailey. Bailey was also the chief engineer of the Ford GT40, and he was brought in to help design the bodywork and chassis for its new rally racing brother. Spada and Bailey began work to design the GT70 shortly after Ford took control of the Ghia design house, and they were going to build a mid-engine rear-wheel drive layout built for a transaxle in the back that embraced the same design characteristics of the GT40. They also learned from the GT40 project and designed the car to be supporting multiple engine platforms, so they could change them out to see which one would work the best with this new GT70, with Ford's 2.6-liter V6 being its primary stock platform. But we'll go a little bit more into detail on that one in just a moment. The first prototype was completed just about 9 months after Turner and Clark began scheming up the idea in the first place, and it would become one of 6 total prototype cars built. And in typical prototype car fashion, to save a few bucks, the parts bin was raided as much as possible from other production lines. But yet, one look at the GT70 and it was still absolutely jaw-dropping. The body of the GT70 was designed to be short and sleek and made of fiberglass with flip-up front headlights to help maintain a short-swept front end. Later race-prepped cars included additional headlights mounted to the hood for better visibility during night stages. Not too dissimilar to the Ford GT40, the body essentially is a sword blade that wraps around the engine bay and cockpit before narrowing towards the back of the car with rounded taillights to finish off what is a very pure design. Powering the GT70 were a few different mid-mounted engine options. One of those options was the 1.6-liter dual overhead cam 16-valve Cosworth BDA inline 4-cylinder. The other would be a hot rod version of the 2.6-liter Cologne V6 as mentioned before. The Cologne V6 was equipped with a Kugelfischer fuel injection and revised aluminum heads. Both power plants were mated to the identical transaxle from a GT40, which was a ZF 5-speed. Overall power ratings were reported to be around 200 to 250 horsepower depending on the tune and the engine selection, which was more than enough for the featherweight GT70 that weighed just over 1,700 pounds. Under the GT70 sat a custom chassis that was designed to offer a perfect balance between weight and structural rigidity. They utilized suspension components from the Tannis and the Cortina, while the brake system utilized rotors and calipers that came from the Mark IV Zephyr. As it was a race car, comfort and class were traded for utility and speed. The interior was bland and featured two bucket seats that faced several switch panels and a very minimal instrument cluster that only carried the necessary gauges, such as the tachometer, speedometer, and oil pressure and fuel gauges. With all of that said, over the 3-year development of the GT70, the eventual 6 prototypes would all be redesigned, modified, and slightly changed to better fit its testing at different rally events over its career. And the GT70 made its competition debut at the 1970 Ronde Cavinole Road Rally, where driver Roger Clark's day would unfortunately end with suspension, braking, and of course, engine issues, showing that while the car was lightweight and aerodynamic, it was not yet durable enough for rally racing. They would eventually change out the 2.6-liter V6 for the 1.6-liter inline 4, which would greatly improve the car's performance and its actual reliability, but it still failed to bring positive results consistently, which is where the story gets interesting. Funny enough, the very Ford Escort that was the reason for the creation of the GT70 in the first place was now winning races and being consistently approved upon, which made it harder to justify the GT70 program and its cost because the car that it was meant to replace was now doing better than the GT70. From its first event in 1970 until 1973, each prototype would build upon the next, proving that there could be potential for the GT70 platform. However, by 1973, it was evident that the GT70 really was without a home in the world of rally. To start, the car really failed to show racing dominance early on with as much budget as they allocated towards it. Then Ford USA got involved and demanded some changes for a road-legal prototype that ended up combining in the demise of the GT70. Following Ford's cancellation of the GT70 project, they chose to run the inaugural World Rally Championship season with the Ford RS 1600. So while it was ultimately a failure for Ford, the GT70 rally program is a super interesting chapter of Ford's illustrious automotive history. It never dominated at the highest levels or really got its foot off the ground, but the GT70, if it had proved to be a more efficient use of Ford's budget, could have become something truly magnificent. Thank you all for watching another episode of our Rare Cars documentary series. If you enjoyed this video, we would greatly appreciate it if you could drop a like and also share this video with other enthusiasts. Also, please make sure that you are subscribed to the Rare Cars YouTube channel